Hello, everyone, and welcome to tonight's Get in Tune. I'm Michael Grassi, and I have a wonderful show tonight. I'm got a guest coming back who has put out a great book. I have the two different covers here, but the Masters. You see them good? One right there, one right there. A fantastic comic who has issue 2 and 3 up on Kickstarter right now. And we got some of the artists that have worked on the book. Let's first bring on the creator, Austin Hough. Hello, Austin.
Hello, everybody. How are you? What's up, Michael?
Not much. How you doing?
Couldn't be better, man. I'm on live with you.
Yeah, I'm really excited to chat with you and everyone you're bringing on tonight because, like I said, I reread the book today, and I just wanted to have it fresh in my head. And man, it was just as good as the first time I read it. And you've got so many great people working on that. One is backstage right now, and again, if I pronounce the name bad, you guys know me. I'm bad with names. I apologize.
Sure, Michael, gracias.
We got the great and talented artist here, Alex Saviuk. Hello.
Hello.
Did I do
There
it right?
he is.
Very, very close. It's Saviuk, but you got an uck in there, and that's not bad.
Okay.
It's better than Saviuk and Savino and Savio and Savuik. And I could come up with at least a half a dozen more, but Saviuk is good.
Yes. And so you pronounce it Saviuk, you said.
Saviuk. Book. Rhymes with book.
Book. Okay.
Saviuk.
Okay, very cool. I'm just so bad with pronunciation. It's just always one of my worst things. Uh-oh.
I'm in the dark.
Well, Austin figures that out. I just let Alex, you haven't been on the show before, and so first of all, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
You know, there's a lot of people out there who are big fans of yours. I am one of them.
Thank you.
I have been a follower of your work for many years.
Now you're trying to make me sound very old, but that's okay. I am old.
I have nothing I can get to right now, but I have some copies, not unfortunately not actual stuff, but stuff of your Spider-Man work when you were doing the strip.
Okay.
I'm a big strip artist fan, and I got some copies of your work off to the side over there that I can't get to, but I want to say I love looking at them. I think it's some of the best stuff strip wise of like superhero work. Love that type of stuff. And before we get into talking about the book, so for the people who don't know who you are and the work outside of Spider-Man, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, well, I've been in the comic book business now for 45 years, since 1977, when I started at DC Comics, and I was there for a couple of months doing some short stories for them just to kind of, I guess, lay the groundwork for me to do storytelling with other writers. And then within a couple of months, I got a big break to do Green Lantern, Green Arrow number 100. And after a couple of fill-ins on that book, I ended up doing that book for a year and a half, along with The Flash. Eventually, I got to do Superman, Hawkman, The Atom, Aquaman, and a teenage character named Airwave, who's a cousin to Green Lantern, that seems to have a fan base all his own. After being at DC for 9 years, I ended up going to Marvel Comics. I was there for 10 years. And I'd say about 9 of those 10 years were spent drawing Spider-Man. Web of Spider-Man, I lasted 7.5 years. And then there were some Spider-Man books based on the animated series, Spider-Man Adventures and Adventures of Spider-Man, the animated series being the one in the middle 90s.
Yes.
And after that, basically my contract was up at Marvel. I ended up going freelance, and I worked on the X-Files for a year for Topps Comics. And my old editor, Jim Salicrup, had moved over to Topps, and he basically got me that job, which was great. And then after that, basically, I'm going to say shut down because the company in California, 1013, they were always having to, look at the artwork and you look at the scripts. And basically, they said at the time when the movies came out, we don't have enough time to go with the comic books anymore. So Topps Comics basically had to end their contract with them or vice versa. Mm-hmm. And shortly right after that, I was lucky enough to get called to do the Spider-Man Sunday newspaper strip in 1997. And subsequently, I started inking the daily strips in 2003 when sadly John Tartaglione, the regular inker, had passed away from an illness. And so 22 years on the newspaper strip from 1997 to 2019. Of course, Stan had passed away in 2018 and Marvel decided they didn't want to continue the strip anymore, but it still runs on the King Feature site, comicskingdom.com. They reprint my material and every day. And so if you still want to see it, it's there. And if you subscribe to their service, you can, I think they have an archive of at least 5 or 6 years, so you can go back and read all the storylines from that time period. And after that, actually, I've been freelancing, doing some things here and there. I've done variant covers for Marvel for the last couple of years on their Symbiote series, Spider-Man series, and met Austin and got involved with the Masters, which was cool. And I guess in chapter 1, I had the book 1. I had 3 pages, but in the third book, I will have at least about, I'm going to say, I think 14 or 15 pages, if I'm not mistaken. And that's pretty cool. All being inked by Al Milgram, and everything that Al and I had worked together back on Spider-Man in the 90s. And he's always been a great guy, great artist. And so our collaboration, I think, is coming out really good. And, looking forward to doing more stuff. So we'll see what happens.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, there's...
That was the shortest bio I've ever given anyone. I just want to let you know that, okay?
I'm like, there's so much in there that you discuss that I just want to, talk about. And
if I had given Alex's bio, I would have been on for 30 minutes just talking about his bio. And I would have used the word legend at least 25 times.
Oh.
I do remember Austin saying something last time. I don't remember if it was on the air or off the air when we talked, but he said, and I believe it was you, that you are his favorite Phantom artist. That you got to work on the Phantom.
Yes. Oh, I forgot to mention that. Back in my Phantom career, I would say, sort of has been spotty over the years, but it started in 1980. I'm going to say 6. When I got to Marvel Comics, one of the things after doing a lot of fill-ins, they had me work on this book called The Defenders of the Earth, which was Phantom and Flash Gordon and Mandrake, set in the future, and they all have kids, and you got to have kids and pets and all that stuff for the cartoons. So we ended up doing 4 published issues, and there was a 5th one that was done. The artwork was done, but it was never written per se. When I say written, doing things the Marvel way, you usually get a plot first from the writer. You go ahead as the artist, leaves it up to you to break down how many panels you need to tell the story throughout. Yeah. And after that, you submit the artwork, and the writer gets the Xerox copies, and he will write the dialogue, write the captions from the existing artwork using his notes, etc. The thing about number 5, which never saw print, was I got 6 pages of plot, and then because I had done an origin of Mandrake over 2 pages in issue number 4, where I plotted it out and I also drew it, the editor says to me, "Well, you know how to plot stuff." So he says, "I'm going to give you just a paragraph with some key points. And I want you to plot the rest of the, 22 pages, so 16 pages. I had to plot and draw myself. And it's a lot harder than you think, actually, to sit down and do all that. And it was in that particular time frame where I still had at least, maybe a week and a half or 2 weeks left on finishing that 5th issue, which unfortunately never saw print, that I got a call from Jim Salicrup asking me if I would have the time to fill in on an amazing Spider-Man story. And I said to him, Jim, I'd love to draw Spider-Man, but I'm committed to doing this book, and I'm going to need about another 2 weeks on it. And I can't work on this because I'm plotting and drawing and try to do justice to your story. So if you still need me in a couple of weeks and the script or the story is still available, I'd be more than glad to work with you. And as it turned out, as soon as I turned in that Defenders of the Earth story, I called him up and asked him, you still need somebody? He goes, oh, yeah, we never got anybody else. So, yeah, whenever you come in, we'll get started. So that's how I got started on Spider-Man. I did 3 fill-ins on Amazing, and then supposedly, I'm going to say 7 fill-ins on Web. And as it turned out, because the last 4 issues of Web that were considered a fill-in were written by Peter David, and I'm still under the impression that I'm just a fill-in artist. And I think in the 4th story in the letter column, fans were praising the artwork in the story, and the answer in the letter was, oh yeah, our regular team of Alex Saviuk and Keith Williams are going to continue to give you, et cetera, et cetera. And so when I read that, I called up Jim Salicrup and said, hey, Jim, I'm the regular guy on Spider-Man. He says, well, I figured after doing all those fill-ins, you would think, you would know that you're the regular guy. I said, you know what? I can't assume anything, Jim. You know, you could have me doing fill-ins, for another 5 issues. I was just happy to keep working, but hey, I'm glad that I got the gig. So that ended up turning out to be a 7.5-year job. So I couldn't knock that at all.
That's awesome. I do just want to say about Defenders of the Earth. I have the collection of those 4 issues in my boxes. And I was a big fan of the cartoon. Growing up, my uncle, when I'd go visit my dad's side of the family, we'd sit and read the newspaper comics together and draw out of the comics a lot.
Right, well, that's how I started with comics. My dad would bring me home the newspapers. I had never seen a comic book until I was 6, and he brought me home an issue of Superman. But I had known Superman from watching the black and white series on television back in the 50s. And so the Phantom and Flash Gordon and Mandrake and all those guys, some really great adventure strips were in the newspapers in those days, and giant tabloids. Prince Valiant took up the whole first page of this one paper in New York, and stuff was just amazing. So I fell in love with the medium very, very early.
Yeah, and that's how I fell in love with comics as well, through the strips. And those characters are just some characters I loved. And when I saw the cartoon, I'm like, this is awesome. When I saw the comics, I was even better. So thank you for drawing those out, because I still love them, and I have flipped through them actually about 2 or 3 weeks ago when I was cleaning out my boxes. So they're great stuff.
Cool.
Great stuff. Well, we're definitely going to talk more about your work, Alex, but I want to talk to Austin right now and have him tell us about this book here, The Masters. For those who are unfamiliar with it, explain a little bit of the story. We're going to look at the Kickstarter in a little bit. And while you're doing that, I'm going to flip through the book and see if I can find Alex's page so I can show them.
Yeah, he has 4 pages in there. In that first.
I'm sorry, Austin. It's only 3.
You sure?
Yeah.
You did the
4.
Was yours the graffiti? I forget.
Yeah.
Yeah, graffiti. Right in the subway station.
Yeah. So.
The Masters, essentially, everybody. Yeah, I mean, look at that. Isn't that just amazing? And I put Alex's good buddy Art Baltazar's ad next to his stuff, so there's some consistency there. Yeah, just amazing work.
Love this.
Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe it was only 3 pages. Well, I made up for it. I gave you 15 in the next issue.
Well, the thing that happened was in the first, I think when you sent me those 3 pages, you sent me the entire job that I was supposed to do, but I think when I turned those 3 pages in, I also turned in 1 page of what's happening in issue number 3.
I think
where the detectives are sitting around in the office.
Correct.
And I thought that was going to be something that's happening in number 1, but you said, oh no, that's just going to be happening in number 3. So that whole thing, ended up being one cohesive unit.
Correct. So the Masters, essentially, you wanted to show some cards.
Yeah, this is what I got when I got the last.
And you got the value pack there, Michael.
Yes, I got this. Yeah. And I got my
Hey, in that pack that you got, was there like a special insert card that's very rare? You only get like 1 in 1,000 or something like that?
Not that I can find. I will.
Oh, okay. Well, that's right. You didn't get that. You didn't get that pack.
No. And the other last thing I just want to show, because he has been on the show before and he's an awesome dude. The Maze by Joe Wolves.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I love his work, man.
Yeah, Joe's a good guy.
Yes.
Did you design that maze, Austin?
What?
Did you design the maze on that?
No. I told Joe, we needed 1 maze per issue.
Oh.
I told Joe, I said, I want like the Black Owl on one end and the Masters on the other with the Mona Lisa. I wanted one with, this guy. I wanted one with this guy. And he just went to town. He actually made 6. He made an extra one that we're probably going to throw in the trade paperback when it's all done, just as a bonus.
A trade paperback. How cool is that?
Yeah. Wait till you hear who I have as the cover artist for that, Alex.
The trade paperback?
Uh-huh.
Hold on 1 second. Let me think.
We'll talk after the show. I can't reveal it.
Oh, you can't. Oh, you can't reveal it.
Can't.
So I can't tell anybody it's going to be Alex Ross. That's okay. No, that's I'm only kidding. I have no idea.
Alex Ross is on the trade hardcover.
Oh. Hey, you know what? With you, Austin, I have no idea. I've seen there are so many people that, when people say, so who's in it? I can remember maybe a half a dozen or 8 or 9 names. And then I see there's this huge paragraph of all these contributors that are in there already. And I know Austin is still hunting down some other people. As a matter of fact, I have a couple of suggestions for people that I think would be great in your next segment. An old buddy of mine that inked the X-Files, Rick Magyar, is still out there doing some great work. And then he's working with Butch Geist. Did you ever get Butch Geist to contribute?
I was able to get Butch Geist to do 2 things. He only had enough time to do 2 pages. He did the absolute final page to the final issue, the what do we call it? The epilogue, right? The end.
Oh, okay.
And Rubenstein inked him, and he is working on a recreation of a Micronauts cover he did back in the 70s or 80s, and Milgram is inking that again. So it's kind of like putting the band back together. Geist and Milgram did a cover, and I've got them recreating that cover with our heroes and villains.
Yeah, speaking of getting the band back together, Michael, on issue number 5, I have one of the covers that was inked by my old buddy Jeff Isherwood, who, we worked together on the West Coast Avengers annual number 1 cover. Wow. And issue number 5 of the Masters has a cover that's an homage to that cover, basically trying to, place the heroes in our saga in the same type of poses that we had on West Coast. Although West Coast, there must have been about a dozen or more guys. We only have 6. Thank you very much, Austin. And we only had 6, and we didn't have 12 or 15 to put on that cover. So it came out really, really good. Really, I was very happy with it.
I can't wait to see all this stuff that you guys talk about. I mean, being an artist and growing up on a lot of the work that you did and others in the book have done, I'm just such a fan of the team that is doing this. It's like it's really like having a dream team of artists, come together. Like I always hate to use the term my childhood because but I was born in 76. I started reading comic books regularly like in 88, Yeah. And it's like everything that everybody who's in the book are people I grew up reading. you know, and I would go buy the back issues, and I would just, I mean, you guys were who I tried to emulate when I was trying to copy out of comic books. You know, it's so. First of
It's
all,
funny that you say you were born in '76, and Spider-Man came out in '62, so that was 14 years prior, and FF was 15 years prior to that.
Yeah.
And I remember when I got my first Superman comic in '58. I mean, Superman was only 20 years old at that point.
Yeah.
And would have been great if I would have said, "Hey, Dad, can you like go to a shop or something, or answer this ad here in this Superman comic you brought me, and see if we can get Superman #1 for like $20." And $20 was a fortune back then in 1958. That's the whole thing, you know. So when I first saw some of those ads in the comic books for back issues, over 300,000 copies of this, that, and the other thing, and you get a catalog, and you would see that I could have gotten Amazing Fantasy 15 for $40.
Wow.
But I mean, $40 to a little kid is, you know, like a gold, you know, like a bar of gold, for Pete's sakes.
Yeah.
Who spends $40 on a comic book when they're 12 or 15 cents on the newsstands?
Exactly.
So.
Exactly.
But I wish I would have.
I know. Yeah, that's what we all say. I still
Right?
feel that way though. Sometimes when I'm at shows, flipping through the bins and stuff, and I'm seeing, I can't afford that one. I really want it. So a little too high. Then you go to the dollars and try to find some gold in there.
There you go.
So yeah, Austin, I'm sorry. Let's get back to telling a little bit about the story.
No, that's okay. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to send you some of the art that Alex and Jeff cover art. I'm sending you a couple images right now on Facebook Messenger.
Okay, I got to log into Facebook then.
Okay. I didn't know how to add an attachment on the comments, or I would have. But yeah, I mean, the basic premise of the story of the Masters is I created 5 supervillains that were all inspired by my favorite artists, and I gave them all art powers, or powers related to their art. And I put them together, led by an unknown leader, an unknown benefactor, who's pulling the strings on these guys. And they're staging the art heist of the century, essentially. And I put together a team of public domain, golden age superheroes, which a bunch of the artists that we've been able to recruit for the Masters have recreated. Like Alex took a guy named Plymo the Rubber Man, who only appeared in one comic book back in like 1942. And it was only like a 6 or 7 page vignette for the most part, right, Alex? And we just recreated this guy because we needed like a plastic man, elongated man type figure. And there he was. And Alan Weiss did this for me, Arbel Jones, Val Merrick, and who else did one of the stories? Ron Wilson.
Ron Wilson.
Yeah. And, you know, I put it together like an old Marvel team up or a Brave and the Bold comic, where there would be the main protagonist, and in this case it would be Black Owl instead of Batman. Mm-hmm. And he and a guest hero would have a chapter, and they would take on the villain, and they would lose. But at the end of the story, all of the superheroes and all of the villains clash at the end, and boom, you know, it's just, you know, and the greatest thing about this end scene, Alex, I have to thank Alex for this. He recommended I call Tom Grummett. And Tom Grummett has the 14-page fight scene at the end of the comic book. And the pages are amazing. He got his old friend Doug Hazelwood to ink him. And it is absolutely spectacular. I have to start feeding you guys in our private emails, Alex, some of these pages because they just blow me away.
Has Doug finished inking the whole thing, or has Tom finished penciling it?
Tom has, I think, 2 or 3 more pages left.
Okay.
And Doug has probably about 5 or 6 more pages left to ink.
Oh, so he's done quite a bit already.
Oh, yeah, a lot. And it looks absolutely spectacular.
Oh, I can imagine.
One of the pages, though, it was funny because Jimmy Palmiotti, I have a relationship with Jimmy Palmiotti. When he came out with Daredevil back in late 90s, early 2000s with Kevin Smith and Joe Quesada, that got me back into comic book reading and collecting. And I ran into him at a Cincinnati Comic-Con a couple years ago, and I told him my story. I even had a letter published in Daredevil #8 way back then. And he's like, oh my goodness, I remember reading this. I was the guy that picked the letters. So we struck up a friendship. And when I told, he said, hey man, you know, I understand you're doing this thing. I'm more than happy to ink a page or two, which is huge because Jimmy doesn't do that anymore.
Yeah.
He's much more on the creative side. He's writing, he's working with his wife, Amanda Connor. So I told him, I said, I've got Steph Rue, who he used to work with on Harley Quinn, and I've got Tom Grummett. And Tom Grummett was like, man, if Jimmy can do a page for me, that'd be great. So we're going to have one page that's a Tom Grummett, Jimmy Palmiotti collaboration, and then one page that's a Stefan Rue, Jimmy Palmiotti collaboration as well, pencils and inks.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. So, you know, at the end of the day, and Alex can attest to this, this is just an old school superhero, supervillain mashup fight from the 60s, the 70s, the 80s. You know, there's no overtones or undertones. It's all a lot of fun. The bad guys are bad. The good guys are good. You know, we put, and I know Alex can attest to this, we put all kinds of little Easter eggs and tributes and homages in there. I mean, Alex, he had his way with one of the pages where he had the front of a building. He's like, what can I do with this big plate glass window, Austin? And I said, whatever you want. Who do you want to pay tribute to? He's like, I'm going to call it the Schwartz Deli. Right? After Jimmy Schwartz, right, Alex?
That's right.
Right. You're going to find tributes and homages to everybody from Jim Aparo, Joe Sinnott, Dick Giordano, Bob Ross, the Buscema brothers.
They have a newsstand in my Subway.
They do. They do. John and Sal's newsstand.
That's right.
Yeah. So I think we pay tribute to Frazetta and also Norm Brayfogle. All of my favorite artists that are no longer with us, I try to find a way to get them in there. And all of the original artists and publishing companies of these golden age superheroes that we recreated, their names are in there as well.
Really? I don't know if they were in the first issue. I'm going to have to look closer. I was just rereading the story today. And can I say, one of the things I really enjoyed about the first issue was, I think, you know, the artist side, actual story. I think you set up, you know, this team of villains forming very nicely. You know, everybody got their own little introduction. You learned about who they are. They're kind of their you know, their evilness, if you will, and you know, and then the way you collect them is just a great way. It just felt very natural. Nothing felt forced in there, and I think that's great. And I know last time you were on, you said, you know, because you even said you're using public domain, but you said there's something with the public domain with the villain as well.
With the Grand Master.
Yeah. I'm just guessing. I'm not going to say it out loud on the air, but I have a feeling.
You can guess offline if you want.
Yeah, I have a feeling. I think I know who it is.
Okay. Well, there's all kinds of Easter eggs about him. There's all kinds of little tidbits along. I'm just leaving breadcrumbs for people. And it's kind of like that hashtag, if you know, you know. So I love the fact, Michael, that you complimented me on how I laid that first issue out, because I got a little pushback from our friend Al Milgram. And, you know, I asked Al, I said, hey, Al, I know I hired you as an inker. Can you help me and take a look at this? Because Al has edited everything, right, Alex? I mean, he's been editor at Marvel, editor at DC. I mean, why wouldn't I ask him to help me with this? So he was nice enough to take a look at it. And his first and main concern was that there were no superheroes in issue 1. And I told him, I said, I know that's the whole point. It's called The Masters. The focus is on the bad guys. And nobody knows who these bad guys are. They're my creation. There are going to be some people who have an idea who the Black Owl is or who Arrow is. Arrow is actually the very first Archer superhero in the history of comic books. Not a lot of people know that, but he preceded the Green Arrow. He preceded all those guys.
Yeah.
So I did get some.
You know what's interesting? What's interesting about when the Arrow, I never saw the Arrow in the comics, but the way he's portrayed in the Masters, well, he wears a hood. Now, his main color is red, but when you think about it, the Green Arrow series that was long running for 8 or 9 years on television, you know, the first couple of seasons, he was in green, but he just wore a hood, and they would call him the Hood, and then they would call him the Arrow. And it took about 4 seasons before they called him Green Arrow, you know?
That was an outstanding series for probably the first 3 or 4 years. One of the best ever.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think my personal opinion went downhill by season 5, but
you know, come on, man, it's hard to stay fresh.
Oh no, I agree. I'm just saying,
you know?
The story kind of dropped for me. That's when I kind of started dropping out of the
series. The same thing happened to me with The Flash. I thought The Flash was great the first 3, maybe 4 seasons, and then after that, I just felt like, I don't know, it just wasn't grabbing me.
Well, I was surprised to see that The Flash was still on television the other day.
Well, it's in their last season now.
Oh.
And we just ended Stargirl as well, which I actually enjoyed that series. I was a little disappointed.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of the JSA.
I'll light a candle for both of them at church on Sunday, I guess.
I'm a big fan of the JSA too, but the thing is that I'm basically a traditionalist, so my JSA is made up of adults.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you take them and turn them into like middle schoolers and high schoolers, and you turn Wildcat, who's a former boxer that could knock people's blocks off, into a girl. Hey, I'm sorry. I have nothing against females, and please, you know, if there's any women out there, any women's female liberation groups, you want to come down on me, I'm so sorry, but hey, man, if you're gonna do that, create a new character. I just don't like the way people are flipped, you know, lately, editorially, but in both companies, they just keep flipping, you know, these characters around, taking them and changing them into whatever, however it suits their purpose. And I'm just, like I said, I'm just a conventional traditionalist guy. I freaked out when the Spider-Man symbiote costume came out back in 1982, and I said, "What? They got rid of the webbing? I mean, it's Spider-Man, but it really isn't Spider-Man." And when I first started working on Web of Spider-Man and Amazing Spider-Man, I think Amazing for 3 issues and Web for about 3 issues was in the black suit. And it wasn't until I drew him in his red and blue with the webbing that I felt like I really made it now. I've made it to draw Spider-Man. And, you know, to me, it's just, they're almost like separate characters.
I completely understand that, I'm not also, and also I don't want to. I'm not disagreeing with you with the changes that when they make changes to things like that. I have that little bit of a traditionalist in me, but I do know. I think it was in the 90s they changed some of those characters to female characters. They just aged them down for the show because it's a CW and it has to be for kids.
Right.
You know.
Oh, that's right. You're right.
But I
believe there was a female Wildcat as early as 1986.
Oh, is that
really?
Yeah, because and she might have been the granddaughter or the daughter of the original Wildcat, some kind of relation and niece.
Oh, okay.
I vividly remember the old DC Who's Who books, which we mimicked with the Masters series with those pages.
Right.
I remember seeing a female figure, Wildcat, with like, you know, long brown hair that stuck out the back, almost like a traditional Batgirl.
Right.
Yeah, I remember the costume that you're.
But you know what? We don't want a Teen Titan JSA mashup. That's not what we're looking for.
Yeah,
you're right.
Cool guys. I want Dr. Midnight. I want Our Man. Right.
Yeah.
So go figure.
I mean, Alan Scott, Green Lantern's one of my favorite characters of all time. I'd love to see something with him more. You know.
Yeah.
Quick question for you: am I allowed to show the artwork that you sent me?
Yes.
Okay, just want to make sure.
Absolutely. This is Alex Saviuk, Jeff Isherwood.
All right, before we show, I just want to get to some comments because I haven't gotten to the comments yet. Mike Wilkie says hi. He's a regular viewer.
Hi, Mike.
Joe Ryan, another regular viewer, says your book sounds awesome. Where can I buy it? I'm a comic artist myself, so I find is it a comic about artists something as a must have. I must have. So
you should have the Kickstarter link, right, Mike?
I'm going to post that in. Let me do that now. I was going to post that in when we talk about it. But
yeah, absolutely. The nice thing, just so if I can interrupt for a second, the nice thing about this Kickstarter is that we made everything available from the first Kickstarter available on this one as add-ons. So if you missed issue number 1, different posters, different whatever, trading cards, whatever you missed from Kickstarter 1, you can add on to your pledge level on this one. Oh, that's a thing of beauty. Look at that.
Yes.
Wow, who did that? Those guys are good.
Man, oh man. I swear that's Ron Wilson.
I don't know. I see a little Gil Kane in there, but he can't be because he's not with us.
Oh my gosh. Maybe I brought back the spirit of Gil Kane.
Dude, this is so fantastic here. And these are all public domain too.
What I love about this cover, okay, is that it fits perfectly in. First of all, it's one of my all-time favorite covers. It's a West Coast Avenger annual #1 cover. It's very famous because I believe it was the back of Quicksilver, but then it was like there was like 15 Avengers in the background. And I remember when I first approached Alex about this, he was so grateful that he only had to draw 6 characters. He's like, Austin, I think this was the first time I ever had to draw Tigra ever. It's the only time I ever had to draw Tigra, and I drew her so small. And it was like that with everybody. I mean, I think Silver Centurion Iron Man was on the cover. Thor was on the cover. Hawkeye was on. It was a crazy mashup. But you couldn't see the detail of any one particular character. And, you know, I'm glad we were able to take that concept. And I think this just absolutely pops.
Yeah, this is gorgeous. Well, we're about to see it in color in a moment. But I don't know if I told you this last time you were on, Austin. I actually have a form of color blindness known as shade blindness. I see colors, but when they start mixing together, I have trouble telling them apart.
Sure.
So I really enjoy looking at black and white. I don't know if you can see behind me, but I'll just move my camera. It's all like the DC showcase stuff.
Right.
Because I love looking at the artwork in black and white, you know?
Well, that leads me to another story about Mr. Saviuk. I'm at the Cincinnati Comic-Con.
Yes.
And I'm there. So many awesome people are there. My good friend Art Baltazar is there. Daryl Banks is there. Mike Zeck, John Beatty are there. Neil Adams, God rest his soul, is there. It was an amazing show. I think it was 2018, maybe 17. And I go up to Alex's table. And I've always been of the ilk that comic book has to be in color. It has to be in color. The Sunday Funnies, it's color, 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 color. And what's on Alex's table but his flip book of original art, he and Joe Sinnott doing the dailies, the Sundays.
Yeah.
And I'm flipping through it like, oh my God, this is the way it's supposed to be. And I flipped to a page where Alex had drawn Rocket Raccoon. And it was the most brilliant image of that character I had ever seen. I immediately changed my tune. And I have been a lover of simple black and white comic book art ever since.
Yeah.
I can't get enough of it.
This is gorgeous.
Alex is still trying to make me, get $1,000 out of me for that strip. But, that's another story.
No, this really is. This is just, beautiful. And you're obviously working traditionally, right, Alex?
Yeah, no, I don't do anything in a computer except maybe after I scan something, I might, erase a couple like extraneous lines, do some cleanups. I never do any of this type of work other than pen and ink on 11 by 17 boards.
Yeah.
So in that sense, I'm completely old school. Plus the fact that when I think about comic books, and as you might know, comic book art right now is basically like real estate. It's gone through the roof. Okay. So for all the guys out there that said, hey, man, I'm going to save some time and I'll do it in Photoshop. Well, not too many people want to buy a file. Okay. Maybe they'll get a print from you for, let's say a nice high glossy type print for $50, but you can't get the original artwork coming out of a computer. So this is traditional art, right on the board, pencil and then ink. So that's still the way I like to work, and I probably will never change it, really.
No,
hey, Alex, do you have those recent pages you did?
The recent pages I did, I sent them to Al Milgram.
Okay, you mailed them to Al. Okay. What I'm going to do is I think I'm going to send some scans over to Michael or some photographs to take a look at. Let me see if I have those handy, because those are beautiful. These are the subway fight scene that Al did is just unbelievable. They haven't been inked yet. Milgram is working on that now, but I'm looking at my computer. I'm trying to find the pages. Let me see if I can figure this out, because they're just fantastic.
These are beautiful. It's funny when you were talking about traditional, because I do a lot of my work digitally these days, mostly because I have due to medicine, my hand's not as steady as it used to be. And so inking, having the undo button just helps me with inking, But looking at this stuff, like I'm in the process, you guys, for my fans out there watching, my Wiz is coming back to Instagram and Facebook in the new year. You guys have been asking for it, so I'm bringing them back. You're gonna have a little, newspaper style strip online again of the Wiz. But
reminds me of the old Aesop Fable cartoon.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it looks real good.
I'm a big fan of like the whole Jay Ward and the Hanna-Barbera and all that stuff. My background is in animation over comics, really, but I grew up on comics too. And looking at this piece right here just makes me want to go back to doing it traditionally, just for the stuff you were saying and just for the look. But
well, Michael, let me just mention that Austin was able to corral Tom Morgan from Marvel to do some covers, and I believe he even did a story that he wrote and drew at the same time. And if you look at Tom Morgan's stuff, he's been working at Disney for, I don't know, the last 20 or 30 years doing animation, but he still loves comics. Gosh, his inking style is just so reminiscent of John Romita that if you really want to talk about bringing back somebody whose work reflects the time period from 30, 40 years ago, Tom Morgan's stuff is just unbelievable.
I'm gonna have to look them up, and I think I just saw your numbers go up on your Kickstarter. That's great. I'm gonna have to look up.
We want to make as much money as we can. I still owe Alex some dough.
Hey, listen, I played lottery tonight. If I win, okay, we're not gonna have to worry about Kickstarters. We're just gonna go ahead and do it.
Nice. Nice. I love it. I did, Michael. I did send you through Facebook Messenger some of Alex's pages.
Okay.
And they're just pencil scans. They're not pencils and inks. But if you scroll down a little bit, we'll see the cover that Tom Morgan did for issue number 2, featuring the Black Owl and a bunch of monsters that he reimagined for the project. What I wanted to do was, since we didn't have any heroes in issue number 1, I wanted
look at that. That's powerful stuff.
Yeah.
I wanted to make an impact in issue number 2 and give the Black Owl his due, because a lot of people know who the Black Owl is. He's had many different incarnations. He's public domain, so we can do what we want with them. This particular version was reimagined by Alan Weiss. And Tom Morgan did an amazing job. And I approached Tom and I said, listen, I've got 8 pages of just bare knuckle brawling Black Owl versus these monsters. I need you to reimagine these. He just told me to shut up. And he's like, I got it. He's like, Austin, I haven't done interior art. I haven't done comic books in years, probably 20 years or more. He's been working for Disney. And man, oh man, he couldn't wait. He took all of these old public domain monsters, recreated them to the point where he and I started talking about doing monster comic books. Wow. And then when I brought up the idea of monster comic books to Tom Grummett, he was like, Austin, I've never done monster comic books. I think I would like to do that.
Wow.
So just amazing stuff. And you'll see Tom's pinups that Alex was referring to further down in the add-ons. You could buy the original art.
I'm just loving all the covers right now. I mean, this art is gorgeous. I was telling you, this is like looking at the books I read as a child. You know,
right?
This is. I hate to say, this is how I want my comics to look.
I'm sorry, Michael, but I know you said you have color issues, but the coloring on this page with the colors inside the wings, Mortad, did he color that too, Austin?
No, David Ocampo colored this.
Okay, but I mean the coloring here is just absolutely gorgeous. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, I could appreciate it. I can see that, but I don't appreciate to the level that you guys would. It's like when people look at HD TV or something, then they go to 4K and they see that wow. I don't see the wowness, you know.
Right.
Hey, Michael, I've been wearing glasses since I'm 13, and when you go into the store and they first came out with like HD TVs, 42, 50-inch screens, and they show you this scene in the store of some city in Italy where the houses are in the mountains and you can look in the back and count the windows. Well, that was when it was, 2K. And then they came out with 4K, and I can still count the same amount of windows. Now they're coming out with 8K and OLED TVs and all this other kind of strange high-tech stuff just to charge you more. The same number of windows are on that house, all the way in the back, and you can't see it. Seriously, I mean, how depends on what you're broadcasting is what you're going to get out of your television anyway. So,
exactly.
But hey, again, this is a great looking splash page by Ron Wilson and Mike Gustovich. I mean, look at that. Look at the colors, how it makes everything pop, and just a cool looking shot.
Yeah, Mortad did the colors on this. It's actually the only page of Wilson's that Rubenstein inked.
Oh, okay.
Gustovich did the other 12 or 13. Rubenstein inked this page. This is a page of yours coming up, Alex.
Oh, yeah, here it is.
And, Michael, I just want to interrupt for 1 second.
Yeah.
I sent you an extra image of a cover that Bob Budiansky and Joe Rubenstein collaborated on. I just, as we were talking, got the scan from Joe Rubenstein, and we can show it on this show right now or at the end of the show. Save it for the big finale. You're going to look at it. You're going to know exactly where it's from.
Yeah, I'm just downloading the images now.
You're going to know exactly.
Oh, yeah, that was a great idea, Austin. And Bob and Joe really knocked it out of the park on that cover. That looked great.
They really did. I appreciate you saying that, Alex. Bob Budiansky, he's near and dear to my heart because he did so many of those old Treasury covers. I didn't realize how many he did, and I think he did them all with Bob McLeod, if I'm not mistaken. Can you see it, Michael?
Yes, I can. Just give me one. I'm just downloading all the.
I hope you're sitting down.
I am. Look, these are gorgeous, and right now I'm looking at Alex's pencils, and oh God, I don't even know what to say, man. This is.
You know what you say? You say, Alex, these don't even need inks.
Yeah.
Oh, they do. Believe me, they need inks.
You know, you know what it reminds me of? I didn't buy a lot of them, but there was a magazine by Tomorrow's Publishing called Rough Stuff, and when I taught art and I was teaching like illustration and cartooning and stuff at the at a college, I used to bring those in so my students can see, you know, um, how the pencils look before it got inked, and they loved it. And this is for me, looking at it myself here. I think this is page 3, maybe I'll call it, because you sent me what, 5 pages?
I did. They were just random pages. They weren't the ones that, Alex, that you did recently. They were a few weeks old. But I mean, everything that takes place in this chapter in the subway is just phenomenal. The character Graffiti is going up against the Black Owl and our stretchy guy, Plymo the Rubber Man. And Graffiti's power, if you remember an artist back in the 80s named Keith Haring.
Of course.
Graffiti was inspired by Keith Haring. And he's kind of a symbiote. And he became that way because he was accidentally in the wrong place at the wrong time. His body was fused with these magic paints of Surreal Ordeal, our Salvador Dali inspired character. So of course, he's really angry at the world. And instead of painting these beautiful images that you're familiar with Keith Haring doing, he actually is able to take them off of his body, take the paint and fling it at whoever he wants, and it turns into a snake, or it turns into a dragon, or a 3-headed mermaid with breathing fire, or something like that, like the old Keith Haring style art, right? The graffiti art.
Yeah.
And Alex has him in the subway, tearing up Plymo, strangling Black. I mean, it's just mayhem down there. And Alex totally got what I wanted to do for my script. And that's the best. When you wake up in the morning, there's 4 pages of new art in your inbox, and you look at it and say, man, this guy gets it.
Yeah. No, this is great. I'm actually seeing a page right now where Graffiti is throwing the snakes right now. As you were saying that was the page I was on. It, man, this is just. So it's hard to see which monitor I should be looking at right now.
So just so you know, you're looking at a panel. From right to left is Terry Dane. In the middle is Barney Dunn, and on the right is Doug Danville, the alter ego of the Black Owl. Now, Barney Dunn is Doug Danville's best friend. He's a newspaper reporter in the style of like a Carl Kolchak. Okay. Terry Dane, scroll down a little bit more. No, up a little bit more so we can see that panel. No, keep going. There we go. Terry Dane is Doug Danville's fiancée. She's a professional detective. Go up a little bit. I want that middle panel.
Oh, sorry, this way.
You're going, Stop right there.
Oh, that's right. I remember.
There's a picture on the wall.
I just noticed that.
With 3 gentlemen. So Terry Dane works for a detective agency. Do you know what the detective agency is named?
No, what?
Ween, Cockrum, and Toth.
That's funny because I was trying to figure out who the last guy was.
and Alex did a masterful job on that, no pun intended.
Oh my God, that's awesome. I love that. I love that, man.
Great stuff, right?
Fantastic. It's just beautiful to look at.
Yeah, it really, really is.
And Joe Ryan says in the comments, I really want to read this. Well, Joe, we're looking at the rewards right now for you to back the issues 2 and 3. Now, is issues 2 and 3 separate? Or are they going to be one? They're separate books.
They're separate.
Okay.
If you remember, all of the issues have 2 different covers.
Yes.
So you can pick whichever cover you want for issue 2, whichever cover you want for issue 3, or you can get all 4.
Yes.
And also, after you buy that tier or you back that level, it'll ask if you want to add on, and you can add on issue 1 and anything else we offered on the Kickstarter one last year.
Yeah, this is great.
Yeah, if you keep scrolling down a little bit, you're going to find Tom Morgan's pinups that Alex was talking about, and they're available as original art. And I couldn't agree with you more, Alex. Man, oh man, having something tangible is so important.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. It's I just
Ron
draw like a
Wilson's model pages.
I'm sorry, go ahead. What?
No, Ron Wilson's model pages were up there. Ron and Joe Rubenstein. But here come Tom Morgan's pinups, and I think Alex, you evoked the name of John Romita Sr.
Yep.
Would you tell the audience your relationship with John Romita Sr.? Because I love that story.
Oh, okay. Well, when I was growing up on Long Island and I was going to obviously high school there, turns out that by the time I was a senior and I was in a particular club called the Honor Society in the school, John Romita, I found out that John Romita Sr. was actually living in the town next to my town, and his kids were going to the same high school as me. John Jr. was, he's 4 years younger than I am to the day. So at the time he was 13 and I was 17 and his older brother was 16. And so the older brother and I were in this club together. And at one point, he saw that I did artwork and I was involved in comics. And he came up to me and says, "Hey, by the way, my father's John Romita. He works for Marvel, draws Spider-Man." I said, "I know." And he goes, "Hey, would you like to meet him?" I said, "Sure." So he set that up, and I get to go over John's house, and just to make age relative to what it is. I mean, I'm 17, and at the time, John Romita Sr. was 39. Now, my son just turned 40 this year, so he's 40, I'm 70. John Sr. now is 92. John Romita Jr. is 4 years younger than me to the day. I'm not going to mention the numbers, so in case anybody is bad at math, I don't want to embarrass John Jr., because he looks a lot younger than I do. But at any rate, I get to meet John and his wife, and I go into his studio, and John was just following Jack Kirby on the Fantastic Four with issue number 103, and he was telling me how nervous he was drawing the FF, and Stan was saying, "John, don't worry about it. You're gonna do great. Just relax, do your thing." And so John had a page of the Fantastic Four in pencil on his drawing table, and that page, if you ever look up that issue, FF 103, there's a half-page panel in there where Nixon was still president, and he's on a big monitor screen talking to Reed, and the others are just kind of standing around. And so I saw that page, and next to that was also a page that was penciled by Gil Kane for Amazing Spider-Man that John Romita Sr. was inking. So here I am at 17, seeing a page of the Fantastic Four, a page of the Amazing Spider-Man by, two of my heroes, and it was just kind of mind-boggling. But, John Sr. was, just very, very humble, very nice, and that's always a super guy. Was very happy for me when I got into DC. Before I got into Marvel, it just so happened that I got in there by chance. And when it came time for my tenure at DC to be over, 1986, I immediately, I was working on Superman books with Julie Schwartz and that whole crew. And as it turned out, they took us out to a big lunch, all the Superman guys, and they basically told us, "Hey, listen, we have to get new creative people in on Superman because the sales are really down, and so we're bringing in, Marv Wolfman and Jerry Ordway and John Byrne, Dick Giordano, Terry Austin. They're all going to be working on Superman, and Carrie Bates, one of the writers, and Elliot Maggin and Marty Pasco." Myself on Superman, Kurt Swan, Kurt Schaffenberger, all those guys, not that we were going to be out of work, but they said, "Oh, we'll have work for you, but, as it turned out, that was November of 2085. And in February of 86, I turned in what turned out to be my last Superman job to Julie Schwartz. And he said he had one Superman story left and he owed it to Kurt Swan. And so I said, yeah, sure, no problem. He goes, well, go see the freelance coordinator and see what they have for you. So I went to that office down the hall and they didn't have anything for me. And I mean, I'm married as a comic book artist. Weren't seeing any major royalties at those times from DC. So I was just working paycheck to paycheck. So I knew, wow, I can't just go home with nothing. So I immediately called up John Romita Sr. and asked him if they had anything going at Marvel. And he said, hey, come on down. He says, bring your latest Xeroxes of your last job there. Leave them on my desk. And we need fill-ins all the time. So I walked over to Marvel across town from DC and met with John, chatted briefly, left my work there. And I believe that was a Monday or a Tuesday of that particular week. And by Thursday, I had received a phone call from an editor named Michael Higgins at Marvel. And he said that he needed a fill-in on Iron Man. Would I like to work on it? So of course I said yes. And so I went to Marvel on that Friday, and I walked home with an Iron Man plot that happened to be Howard Mackey's first story. And so both of us, doing our first thing, which was Iron Man number 211, where he fights the living laser. And the rest, as they say, is history. From there, it's just kept going. DC at one point tried to get me back about 3 weeks later, and they called and they said, oh, we've got a great project for you. And I said, really? What is it? Well, it's Jonah Hex in a apocalyptic future. And I said, really? And I'm thinking, Jonah Hex is a Western. They're going to throw him into, I don't know, Zombieland or something. And I said, well, to be honest with you, I said, I don't think I can do it. And basically, I can imagine jaws dropping, going, what do you mean you can't do it? Well, I'm working for Marvel, and I can't do 2 books a month. I'm just not able to do it. Oh, this would be perfect for you. We'd really like you to do it. And I had to say no. And it was written by Steven Gerber. And he even called me up the next night and says, hey, they told me that you'd be really excited about doing this. And I said, no, I would be excited if I wasn't working for Marvel, but I'm working for Marvel and I can't do it. So as it turned out, I never worked for DC again, except on one little other project, but that's another story. But yeah, I just ended up staying at Marvel. Ended up, after doing a bunch of fill-ins in the Defenders of the Earth, doing a fill-in on Starbrand number 3 for their Jim Shooter's New Universe books. And he liked what I had done so much that, he gave me a big raise and said, hey, listen, we like what you're doing. We'd like to keep you here. So I never left.
That's amazing. I mean, these are the type. First of all, these are the type of stories that the comic geek in me loves to hear. Growing up, reading the artists' names and who's doing this, and just wondering, like, dreaming about being the comic artist and what the life was like. Like that is the stuff I love hearing. But I just need to make a quick announcement. First off, I know we've been on for about an hour now, guys. And I know I advertised that Bart Sears was going to come on, but he's unable to make it tonight. So I just wanted to let you guys know that.
I thought we were. I just looked at the clock and I said, "Oh man, we're leaving Bart hanging in the studio for the last half hour."
No, I would have popped him on as soon as he came on, if he did. Hopefully, we can get him on another time. I'm not ending the show right now, but I just want to say, to both, Austin and Alex, I'd love to have you guys back, together again, separately, whatever. Just because I know that we're just touching upon stuff right now, and there's a lot more we can talk about. But let's just quickly get back to the artwork here. And you said this is Airman, right, on the screen?
Correct. That's Airman. Yeah. That was recreated, reimagined for the project by Ron Wilson.
Yeah, I really enjoy that look. As I mentioned the last time you were on, I'm a big public domain fan. I tend to go towards public domain character, even though I have every artist creates their own. I don't know, since the pandemic, I really got into, as I read, I needed something to do to read. I got really into public domain, even though I knew about them and drew them for fun occasionally. It was really during the pandemic that I became obsessed with the public domain style comics and characters here. And this is great. Here's the Arrow.
Yep, Arrow as redesigned by Arvell Jones. All of the prints again are Tom Morgan's.
Mm-hmm.
Black Owl was recreated by Alan Weiss.
And I want to say, we're going to look at Alex's pencils in a moment. The way he penciled Black Owl's cape there, I love the way he did the feathers just on that. It's little marks, it looked like, but it just looks so nice for the picture. Okay. That is beautiful.
Oh yeah, there's Bart Sears cover.
Yep.
Beautiful cover.
You know, you gotta love it when you can go out and get guys like Bart Sears and Alex Saviuk and Ramona Fradon to do homages to their own work.
Yeah.
You know, the other thing I want to make mention to also and point out is for this, again, this Kickstarter show, to the right of the original artwork, we have 4 covers going, and we've seen Tom Morgan's and one to the left of that. I'm sorry, I can't remember who did that one to the left of Tom's.
You've got if you go clockwise from the upper left, you've got David Perrin and Al Milgram, Tom Morgan by himself, Mike Vosberg by himself, and then Ron Wilson and Joe Rubenstein.
Yeah, those are really, really, excellent pieces. If you could somehow zoom in on those, if you have them, that would be great.
I could. I'll see
those
about
are all
zooming.
up at the top of the page. If you go back to the top.
Oh, if I scroll back
top
up?
of the page, okay.
All right, let's just finish going through the artwork here. And then
Yeah.
I'll go back up, and then we'll show the other stuff too. That was Steve. That was Steve Butler, right?
Yep.
The Steve Butler cover.
Yeah, what a great recreation of that Jim Aparo Batman book.
Which I know I'm very small on the screen now, guys, but that's the cover right there that I got, and this was the Bart Sears cover.
I almost said Bart Simpson.
I gotta be. I'm a huge Simpsons fan. I don't know if you guys can see. I have a Simpsons print on the wall back there, and I am such a Simpsons geek. I still remember the song from the '80s about do the Bartman and all that stuff. When I found out Bart was coming on, that's what I was singing like all day long. This is beautiful.
Yeah, amazing stuff, right?
Yeah, I just love looking at this. It's so gorgeous.
Yeah. Yeah, I have been absolutely blessed to be able to work with these guys, all living legends, all amazingly talented men and women. It's such a treat when I get up in the morning, and all of these artists are vampires, man.
Yeah,
it's like they're all working late at night, and it's like the first time I talked to Joe Rubenstein, I'm an early riser. I'm in Chicago, 2 hours ahead of Joe, who's in LA.
Yeah,
and the first correspondence I had with him when I had this idea, I sent him an email. It had to be like, man, 4:30, 5:30 in the morning.
wow.
And like 10 minutes later, I'm getting a response from him. And I'm thinking, dude, have you not gone to bed, or did you just get up? I can't figure it out. But these guys are vampires. Alan Weiss, I think, gets up at 4:30.
Wow.
In the evening.
Oh, in the evening. Okay.
Yes.
Oh.
30 p.m.
Oh, I love the Halloween mask here.
Ben Cooper is proud.
This is fantastic.
Yep, and that Tom Morgan cover, we made it into a jigsaw puzzle because the original cover, his cover is an homage to an original Spider-Man drawing that Whitman used for a puzzle. And the original Spider-Man drawing was by Ron Wilson back in 1978.
Wow.
I'm telling you, Michael, and Alex can attest to this. You know, we have these email chains that go back and forth sometimes. And I sent out a message to the group. You know, there's like 50 people in this group, including Ron Wilson. And everybody's trying to figure out who the artist is on this puzzle. And Bob Budiansky says it's this guy. I say I think it's Ross Andrew. Somebody else says it's John Romita Sr. And Tom Morgan pipes in and says, I think it's Ron Wilson. And nobody is agreeing with him. They're like, no, it can't be Ron Wilson. And finally, we send a message to Wilson and say, Ron, is this you? And he's like, oh, yeah, that's me. I remember that. It's just hilarious, you know? Just hilarious.
This is
There are all those covers, Alex.
Yeah.
And here are the
really nice.
Here are the extra covers by Mike Grell, Airman, Ramona Fraden Plymo, and then Joe Staten. And you know what? You know who's a marvelous inker who doesn't get enough credit is Andrew Peepoy. He inked the Fraden cover and the Staten cover.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you think about it, you look at that Ramona Fraden cover, and I mean, she just turned 95, so she did that cover probably when she was 94. And I mean, she hasn't missed a beat. I mean, she's still just as great as she was back then when I was a little kid looking at her doing Aquaman. I mean,
I tell people that Ramona and Alex Toth are my grandparents.
That's great.
Just brilliant.
And I love all this. I'm just, like I said, I'm just geeking out on this stuff here.
Well, again, and I say this all the time, I've said this last time too, Mike, this is my love letter to the Bronze Age of comics.
Yeah.
I was born in 69 when the Bronze Age began, and I graduated high school in 86 when the Bronze Age ended. So, you know, this is my time period. And to gather up all these guys, you know, not just these guys, but I've got a Hall of Fame list of artists who turned me down. You know, I was turned down by Jose Luis Garcia Lopez. I was turned down by Jim Steranko and Ron Friends and Bob Layton. There's some, you know, great names. John Byrne, you don't even want to know what the process is to get him to do something for you.
I can imagine.
So,
really.
But honestly, you know, one of the first guys that I contacted is in this interview right now, and that's Alex. I met Alex in Cincinnati back in 18 or 17. And Alex, you had to be the most approachable guy I've ever met at a Comic-Con. And, you know, I tell people that if you look up the term salt of the earth in the dictionary, there's a picture of Alex Saviuk.
Oh, yeah. And I got high blood pressure because I got too much sodium. So there you go. You got to get that salt of the earth moniker off me there, Austin, you know.
I'm going to trademark that for you, Alex. Oh, that's precious.
Great.
All right, show the audience some of these pages that Alex.
Yeah, let's get on to that.
Saviuk Power Hour, man. Come on.
Okay. So let's stop this share. I'll be right back with a new share.
And then save that cover for the final thing.
I already did.
We're going out with the bang, right?
Absolutely. Okay, I'm on the right thing here. Now we're going to share. So I don't know if I have anything in a certain order or.
It really doesn't matter. Nothing is lettered. Nothing is inked or colored. So, but just seeing the fact that these guys are fighting graffiti. If you go to the lowest panel, the bottom panel, you'll see him throwing the snakes off of his body. And those snakes are reminiscent of the style of art of Keith Haring. And the way that we created graffiti, there's what happened back in like, I think 84 or 85, the very famous photographer Annie Leibovitz was doing a photo shoot at one of Haring's projects. He painted this room entirely in white and black. And she convinced him to get completely naked and paint himself white and black and camouflage himself in the room. And that's what this character is inspired by.
Nice.
So good stuff here.
Yeah, I love. I just like I said, I love looking at pencils.
Right.
Next.
Next, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. We got to move faster. I'm sorry. This is my.
Oh no. Okay, this is when they the heroes finally get down into the subway, and there's John and Sal's newsstand on the left.
Right.
Okay, and Graffiti's over there just having a blast, creating some of these images on the walls, which actually were based on some of the paintings or creations of Keith Haring. I mean, that mermaid on the top left, right, and the other guy with the, looks almost like a semi-Doc Ock, and some of these other creatures and whatnot. Yeah. I got them from my references on, on Keith Haring.
Right. And Graffiti is essentially there. He's bored because he's waiting for the red line, and he's just, painting the wall. The red line's always late in Chicago. Boom. Beautiful. Amazing stuff, right?
Yeah. Great characters. I mean, I really love the. I'm one of my favorite characters to draw is Hawkman, and just the fact that the Black Owl to me is sort of a combination of Hawkman and Batman put together. I just love that mask. I think he looks so cool.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's interesting. I've never heard anyone say like that how much that they love to draw Hawkman. He's one of my go-tos. When I need to draw birds, he's the first thing I
now this guy in the top 3 panels, he's a detective. Yeah. He's a reporter. That's right.
No, he is the detective from the police department.
Oh, that's right. And so okay. And I created a character for Web of Spider-Man that. I mean, even though you gave me reference on this guy, there was a guy in Web of Spider-Man named Nick Katzenberg, who was, kind of a heavy-set type guy that was a reporter also. But, at any rate, getting away from him, here we go. We've got Plimo getting stretched out by these snakes, and they've attacked Black Owl, and they're surrounding him, trying to, subdue him also.
Nice.
So here's another little homage. That detective, his name is Detective Dick Dillon.
Yeah, there you go.
You remember Dick Dillon, Michael?
I'm trying to think. It's in my head. I can't place him right now.
Super popular Justice League of America artist back in the 70s and 60s.
And before that, in the early 50s, maybe even in the late 40s, he had an extensive run on Black Hawk.
Correct. Absolutely. Thank you for adding that. You are 100% correct. A magnificent run.
Oh, yeah. I used to love Black Hawk as a kid and that whole team of guys.
Right. Magnificent run. Absolutely. Couldn't agree with you.
So I guess after having drawn Black Hawk, it seemed like Dick was a natural to draw the Justice League, because I don't think he ever drew a book where he didn't have to draw like 6 guys in a panel.
Right. And unfortunately, he passed away a good 40 years ago, 1980, right. I think he was only 54.
He was only 54?
I believe he was only 54. I'll look it up real quick.
Did he have a heart attack or something?
I believe it was something like that. But I was able to connect with his daughter and his nephew, I think, on Facebook.
Oops, let me zoom out.
Dick Dillon, oh man, he died in 1980. He was 51.
Wow.
My God.
Yeah. And I always praise Jim Aparo's Brave and the Bold. And I always forget to give credit to Bob Haney, who wrote almost all of the issues Jim worked on.
That's right.
So I want to make sure I give a plug to Mr. Haney, because he deserves some credit on that. He was his writing was great. You know, it's I think sometimes we take it for granted. We can write a weaker story when we have a lot of heroes in it because they take up all the pages and they're so visually stimulating. But, you know, guys like Haney, I loved his writing. It was great. I remember the one story he did when it was a Brave and the Bold Batman and Green Arrow versus Joker and Two-Face.
Yes.
One of my favorites. Look at that art.
Yeah. I have been, man. It's beautiful here.
Yeah, I'm getting nasty text messages from Al Milgram every day because of Saviuk's, you know, too many panels in this page, Austin.
Well,
I hate to say it, but in some cases, I've even added more panels than Austin gave me, just because it kind of fit the storytelling of, and you know, the flow of what was going on.
Yeah.
And you know, just I guess that's just me, the Will Eisner in me coming out when I studied with him at the School of Visual Arts. You know, the story is always the most important.
Yeah. I didn't know you were an SVA grad. That's awesome.
I never graduated. I you know, I have to say I never did. I transferred from college where I was pre-med for 2.5 years.
Interesting.
Yeah. I always wanted to draw as a hobby. And then somehow I got disenchanted with doing biology and chemistry and biochemistry and organic chemistry. And I just was playing in a band at the time. And I just did music for about a year. And after that, I realized, nah, this isn't for me. I mean, it's fun and all, but I ended up applying to the School of Visual Arts and getting in and not having, and, you know, getting started with Will Eisner pretty soon.
Wow. That's great.
Didn't you play for the football team at that school too?
Me? I never played football, no.
Matter
of fact, I was a big guy. I was a big guy in high school, and the gym teachers always said to me, "Hey, Saviuk, how come you're not playing football?" And I didn't want to get my butt kicked on the football field because, number one, I was not a football fan at the time. I liked baseball, and I started playing tennis. And I like tennis, and I like baseball. My dad was into soccer, so I was into soccer. And I couldn't see the point of football, and neither could my dad. He goes, "How is this football? These guys, they just run into each other all the time. They're not doing anything." I said, "Yeah, you know what? You're right. I don't get it." And but now, you know, I sort of, I'm not going to say I'm a student of the game, but I really do enjoy it. And, you know, I just, again, when I see these guys getting clobbered, breaking legs, concussions all over the place, I mean, hey, you know, I'm not a big fan of the roughing the passer rule sometimes when the guy just can't stop himself and kind of touches the guy and you go, oh, man, he just freaking touched him, you know? But they want to make sure that the quarterback doesn't get killed. But, you know, forget about the running backs and the safeties. All those guys are getting destroyed.
You can't blame them. The quarterback is the most vulnerable person because his whole focus is on everything outside the ball because he's the only one that has the ball.
That's right.
And the quarterback is the league. They don't want to lose the guys that bring in all the revenue. They have to rule the way they do.
Yeah, and 9 times out of 10, you know, when you see these guys, when you see these running backs getting hit, they go down, they bounce right back up. It's sort of almost like their own momentum is letting them go forward and being able to roll with the blow. The quarterback, 9 times out of 10, is standing there still. And, you know, these defensive ends are coming and tackles are coming in from the sides. And if he gets blindsided, you see that neck snap back like crazy. Right. I mean, the whiplash factor, forget about it.
Yeah, forget about it.
Forget about it, yeah.
How many pages we got left, Michael?
That was the last one. We got the cover now.
Let's go to the cover. Should I introduce this, or should you just throw it up there? You think everybody will get what it's a tribute to?
I think so, but if you want to introduce it, you're welcome
No,
to.
let's just do it.
Right there, guys.
There
Anyone
is your-
anyone in the audience wanna?
Yeah, who in the audience knows what this is a tribute to? Not everybody jump in at once here.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to say it right now. Let's see if anyone in the audience knows. But what I'm going to say is how I love how you have the original Golden Age look at the top.
Right.
And your redesigns at the bottom.
Yeah. I mean, I wanted to get Bob Budiansky involved. I had a couple of ideas that we tossed back and forth, but then all of a sudden this popped into my head not too long ago, and I was like, how could I have overlooked this?
Mm-hmm.
Because it just made so much sense. We took the Golden Age characters and we reintroduced them. It was like a new Genesis, right?
Mm-hmm.
And here it is. So X-Men Giant Size #1.
Yep.
How can you beat it? So an homage to Gil Kane, and I think Cockrum did the inks, right, Alex?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah. You know, you think about all the monumental comic book covers that Gil Kane was involved in.
Oh my gosh, it's incredible that you say that, because people are posting artwork on Facebook and stuff, Instagram all the time, and I'd say 9 times out of 10, it's a Gil Kane cover. I mean, he must have been, besides drawing Amazing Spider-Man for Marvel, and well, he did a whole bunch of other stuff too. I mean, he did some Conans. Right. I'm trying to think, Daredevil for a while, with some of those stories that he did with Klaus Janson were just unbelievable.
He did a bunch of Marvel Treasury Edition covers.
So he did this incredible What If Avengers story with Klaus Janson, which was just absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
And then just all these covers, Tomb of Dracula with Tom Palmer.
Yeah, yeah.
I think he did the cover for the first appearance of Werewolf by Night on a Moon Knight cover.
Right.
And I think that, I'm trying to remember if that was inked by, I think it was inked by Bob Layton. I don't think it was inked by Don Perlin. But I think Don Perlin did the inside story.
Yeah. Gil Kane was the cover artist for the very first comic book I ever purchased as a kid for 25 cents. It was Defenders #17. It was a Gil Kane cover. So I'm standing at the spinner rack at the pharmacy, okay? And I pull this comic book up and I'm looking at it like, wow, is this cool? And I open it up, and who is the interior artist but Sal Buscema? And I was hooked. It was all over. I gave the lady 25 cents for the comic book. I used the other 25 cents for a candy bar. And then I walked the crazy streets of Chicago back to my grandmother's house. True story.
So you mean that you gave up buying a second comic book to get that candy bar?
I didn't get this figure from reading. Okay.
I get it.
So what were we doing? Werewolf by Night? Was that the cover? Let's see. Werewolf by Night. Where are you? Werewolf by Night. Let's see which ones he did. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong. I need to look at the whatchamacallit here. Sorry. We're looking for one by Gil, right? What I need to do is I need to look at his cover gallery, and then we'll find it. That was with Moon Knight, right, Alex?
Yes.
Bear with me while I find that.
No problem. Do you guys know if there's a book like specifically about Gil's work, like maybe his cover work or something?
Man, oh man, I'm telling you, I'm like scrolling through his covers, and it's crazy. Master of Kung Fu, Iron Fist, Marvel Team Up, Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Wow.
Daredevil, Kid Colt, Submariner, Son of Satan, Conan the Barbarian, Marvel Tales, Rawhide Kid, Omega.
You know, I'm starting to hear an echo. I think
I blame Alex.
You're in someone's end. I don't know.
Man, Alex, I can't find that cover because there's just too damn many. Captain America and Falcon. Holy cow. And
oh, yeah, Captain Marvel. Geez.
Don't forget he did the Spider-Man cover with the Punisher on it.
That's right. John Romita inked it, but that's an iconic cover and an iconic book.
Right.
God, I have all that stuff. I just have to find it.
And then he went over and did some DC stuff. There's a ton of Superman and Green Lantern and Supergirl.
Well, he was around when I first started collecting comics, and he was drawing Green Lantern. Yeah. I mean, trying to remember what my first Green Lantern book was that I got. Actually, it was Green Lantern #1. I was in the first grade, and we were able to bring comics in the last week of school, and I got to trade something that I had to somebody else for a Green Lantern #1 book.
Wow.
And Gil was drawing that book for, I don't know, maybe about 5 or 6 years. Eventually he went to Marvel, but boy, he was a mainstay. He drew the Atom, and he drew Green Lantern. Yeah. So the Atom was Gil Kane and Murphy Henderson, and on Green Lantern it was him and probably Joe Giella for the first, I don't know. They had this weird way to publish comics in those days for DC. Some books were monthly, like Detective Comics, but then and action and adventure. But then you had Superman and Batman. They were published 8 times a year. So when you think about it, you go, okay, why did they do that? Well, I guess they might have figured in the winter months, people weren't buying that many comics, but from June, July, August, September, those 4 months, the books came out monthly. So over the summer, when the kids were able to, just buy a lot of books, that's how they did it. And then there were some books that were bi-monthlies, and even the bi-monthlies survived in those days. I don't think a bi-monthly comic could survive in today's market.
No. Gil Kane and Klaus Johnson did that cover.
Which one?
The Werewolf by Night.
I got a bunch of the Moon Knight covers that I'm looking at with Werewolf by Night.
Right.
Let me scroll through. I saw the first one was Gil Kane with Al Milgrom. The second one was Gil Kane with Klaus Johnson.
Okay.
And I keep on scrolling because these are just absolutely beautiful. I mean, it's unbelievable, this stuff. And I know then I'm flipping through these Werewolf by Night and I see Mike Plug. Oh my God. I tried to get him as well, guys. I tried to get him.
Yeah.
And he was what, just too busy?
Oh, you know what? His people told me that he just didn't feel comfortable. He didn't feel he could live up to his standard for what I wanted him to do.
He has people?
He has people. I think it was his daughter or his granddaughter that I spoke with.
Hey, did you ever try to get Mike Kaluta?
No.
Oh.
I did not. I mean, some of the guys that I tried to get that I couldn't, I mentioned a few earlier. I know Mike Zeck was too busy. He had stuff going on. I asked Andy Smith. I know you guys know who Andy Smith is. Yep. But he was right in the middle of his own stuff. A lot of these guys are doing their own creations as well, and they're kickstarting them and they're Indiegogoing them.
Right.
At Zoop, I asked oh my goodness gracious, why can't I remember his name now? God, he lives right over here with his wife, Linda Lessman. Bill Reinhold.
Bill Reinhold.
Yeah, Bill Reinhold lives close to me as well. I asked him if he was able to do some stuff, and he had to turn me down because he was in the middle of some creator-owned stuff as well. Yeah, I mean, there have been guys all over the place that I've approached to do things, and
well, it's nice to know that they're busy and working.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Here's a Gil Kane, Mike Esposito cover. By the way, Gil Kane, Frank Giacoia, you know, Dan Adkins. Holy cow, Gil Kane, Dan Adkins. Like every issue is a different inker. So I'll give you a piece of trivia.
Okay.
The most prolific penciler and inker team in the modern comic book era. So we're going to say 1960 to present day. The most prolific team, excuse me. So the guys who did the most work together, the most pages or whatever, Ross Andrew and Mike Esposito. Nobody's ever done more work together than those two.
Those guys were best friends.
Really?
Yeah. They kind of grew up together. They went to the School of Art and Design together, if I'm not mistaken, in New York. And, you know, they started working on, I guess their big thing was Wonder Woman. And then they did Star Spangled War Stories for DC, Metal Men, if I remember. Whatever. And Ross was penciling at DC. Mike was always inking.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Here's Gil Kane, inked by John Romita.
Right.
Just amazing stuff, man. Oh, my goodness gracious. What a treat looking at this stuff.
You're going to give me something to do tonight on my phone before I go to bed, is I'm going to be scrolling all these covers.
I'm telling you, man, it's unbelievable. My top 3 Spider-Man artists of all time. I have a super deep affection for Ross Andrew. And not a lot of people would put him on top of their list. He's on top of my list, followed by John Sr., and then this guy, Alex Saviuk. And I'm not just saying that because Alex is on the show, but there's a reason why he was one of the first guys I went to get. You know what I'm saying, Michael?
Yeah, absolutely.
And you can see that in the work he has done for this. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. I don't know what else.
And the thing, the thing is that I haven't really done any comic book work. I'm going to reveal this now. I haven't done any comic book work in the last 5 years. Anything that I submitted to you was done by my assistant, and I'm not giving him. I've trained him really well. I mean, I've got arthritis in my hands. I can't hold a pen or a pencil anymore. So he's doing a really good job.
Going by the pen name Samuel Clemens.
Okay. But yeah, right, exactly. Actually, no, his name is Mark in Between.
Mark in Between. Nice.
I like that.
Nice. Very good.
Now, you know what? I don't know if you're familiar with, on social media, there's this artist currently, his name is Carl Kopinski. And he's ambidextrous. He draws with both hands.
I saw that guy. He was coloring a Carnage and a Venom at the same time, right?
Yeah, he starts drawing like a figure, and he's kind of going like this, and he's drawing this and that, and I'm thinking he's getting the left side, and it's not like a simple drawing. It's guys in like soldiers, and they got the pockets and the gun in one hand, and they got something else in the other hand, and he's just freaking going around doing this thing, and I'm thinking, wow. What a mind to be able to separate and distinguish. God, if I could do that, I could draw so fast. I could have done 2 books a month. Heck.
Think about all the other things you might be able to do with your hands. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
I knew a guy like that a few years back, and it was just so freaky to watch him draw in person. He'd do a lot of caricatures, or just that he was just doing this or starting. Here's a person, I'm starting the background over here, and he's just coming and meeting, and I think
it would be interesting if you could take, in your left hand, you could hold a book and read it with your left eye, and with the right eye and the right hand, you could be drawing something, just separate the two completely. Now that would be amazing.
And then if you could do something with your left foot, and then something with your right foot.
That's right. Yeah.
Crazy.
Right.
We have absolutely breached the wall of insanity, I think.
You're absolutely right. I'm looking. It's going 10:40 p.m. Oh
yeah,
man.
No,
okay.
We should wrap it up. A couple of things before we wrap up. If you guys don't mind hanging out backstage for a minute after I drop you backstage, but for those watching, I'd like to give both Austin and Alex, the final word to. Anything they want to say?
Yes. For me, I hope I win that lottery, all those lottery tickets I played tonight. I hope one of them comes through. That's all I can say.
For me, I hope Alex wins that lottery tonight. I hope at least one of those tickets comes through for him.
Yeah.
Seriously, go support the Masters. You're going to love it. If you love the old traditional good guy, bad guy, team up, beating up each other, all that good stuff, this is the comic book for you. I promise you, you will love it. You will love all of the characters. You will love all of the tributes and homages and the covers and the toys and the gadgets, all the stuff that we bring. You're going to love it. It's an absolute fun ride, and I appreciate all of your support.
Awesome. I'm going to drop you guys backstage. I'll be with you in a moment.
Thank you.
All right. Oh, Snoop.
All right, guys. First off, thank you all for joining us. I had a really fun time talking to everybody. In the link, and whether you watched on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch, in the link there is there's a link to the Kickstarter, so you guys can go back this project. I did read the first issue. I have a couple of different covers on it, but seriously, man, I had a lot of fun reading this. This was a great introduction story of the team of villains forming, and I'm looking forward to seeing what happens next. In the meantime, for those who want to follow me on Instagram and Facebook, at the Wiz Comic. This is coming back in the new year, so you guys, you can go at the Wiz Comic. It's WIZ. It's just classic old style newspaper strips, and they're there to make you laugh. There's about 60 or so up from 2019, and starting end of January, beginning of February, you'll start seeing more. So again, thank you all for tuning in. I'll be back next week with actually probably a group of people. It is going to be my holiday show, and I am looking for a lot of fun there. So you guys, again, thanks to everyone who watched. If you're watching in the future, everyone, thank you. I'll see you guys soon. Have a great rest of your week.